you're probably using Windows as your usual operating system for your PC. But could there be a good reason for you to consider Linux instead? Today we're going to go over 5 good reasons, things that Linux does better than Windows, starting out with arguably the most important one, system stability. Now, don't get us wrong, Windows has come a long way since the days when Windows Me was blue screening left and right, but Linux still maintains its reputation for being a bit less buggy, at least in terms of the kernel. While you can run into compatibility issues if you try to push a distro beyond what it's designed for, the Linux kernel, basically the operating system's guts, is known for being stable and reliable, which is one reason why the vast majority of web servers run on it. Part of the reason for this is how many eyes Linux and many of the programs written for it have on them at the same time. Because Linux is open source, anyone can look at its code, identify bugs, and try out fixes. And there are lots of people who actively do this, given how large the Linux community is, as well as the large number of companies who use Linux and develop their own Linux distributions. Although Microsoft is obviously a huge company, the people examining the Windows codebase for bugs are basically just Microsoft employees, of which there are a finite number, meaning Windows bugs are often identified and fixed more slowly. But it isn't just about how many people are looking at the code. Linux is also built in a more modular manner than Windows. This means Linux applications tend to not mess with the operating system's kernel as much or with other programs. Windows has caught up to some extent with this, but Linux still rules the roost when it comes to modularity. Which brings us to point number 2. Linux is highly customizable. You can see this in how everything from servers to Android phones to smart thermostats use versions of Linux. But what does that mean for you, the home user? It means that you have real choices as to what you want your Linux experience to look and feel like. Lots of folks think that you need to be a programmer or a system admin who's intimately familiar with the command line in order to use Linux, but there are plenty of Linux distributions such as Elementary OS and Linux Mint geared toward beginners who are migrating over from Windows or from Mac OS and just want to watch videos, use social media, and communicate with coworkers. You get to choose what your experience is like, as opposed to using just one version of Windows, and many Linux distributions come with package managers which behave like app stores, so downloading vetted software isn't an issue. And if you do have the know-how and the willingness to learn, Linux allows you to build or install so many customizations on top of the kernel. The exact reason there are so many distributions out there that look very different from each other, and that's really cool. The third item on our list is security. Linux is bulletproof, but it has a reputation for being more secure than Windows, partly because there's so many more people looking at it, like what we talked about earlier. But another big reason that Linux is often considered safer is because fewer people use it. I mean, there's a reason we're not making a video called 5 Reasons to Try Windows. Although Linux is by far the most popular OS on the servers you connect to all the time to use the internet, and attackers definitely try hard to breach these systems, malware targeted toward desktop Linux distros is much rarer than Windows malware, simply because Linux's desktop user base is so much smaller. Linux also doesn't normally give users as much access to low-level system files and functions as Windows does, meaning any malware that does find its way into your system tends to be easier to isolate and remove. We will go on to item number 3 right after we thank Zoho CRM for sponsoring this video. Zoho CRM is a 360-degree solution for managing your business's sales, marketing, and customer service. With their intuitive UI and simple navigation, it's easy to implement their service quickly and efficiently. Zoho offers AI predictions to help you with insights and to better understand your customers' needs. Plus, their design studio helps you customize your experience so that you can spot critical information at a glance. They've got flexible contracts, transparent pricing, and an ever-evolving product that grows to meet your needs without snowballing costs. Get 50% off your annual subscription when you use code ZCRM50, that's 50, using the link in the video description. Speaking of removing junk, let's talk about the 4th item, privacy. It's no secret that Microsoft is a big fan of tracking your online activity in order to do everything from improving its AIs to serving you what it thinks are relevant ads. And it's quite difficult to opt out of being spied upon. To turn off tracking, Windows makes you dig down and find multiple settings in a complicated maze of menus, and even if you do this, there are some kinds of data that Windows will just keep sending to Microsoft regardless. But because Linux is open source, there's not a monolithic company behind it hoping to make tons of money off of every Linux user, and there's no provision for any kind of tracking by default. While there are some Linux distributions that do engage in some limited forms of tracking, like Ubuntu, it's typically easier to opt out or just find a different distribution that doesn't send any data back to its servers. Activity tracking is a good segue into our fifth and final point. Linux is a heck of a lot better at keeping your money in your own pocket. Obviously, you can install and use Windows for free, as long as you don't mind that annoying watermark and not being able to pick your own desktop wallpaper. But Microsoft still uses Windows to get you to spend money on its services, such as Microsoft 365, OneDrive, and apps from the Microsoft Store, in which Microsoft gets a cut of the money. Most Linux users, however, won't be tempted to spend much, if anything, to get the most out of their systems. Although large organizations sometimes pay companies like Red Hat for Linux support and training, the average home user using an approachable Linux distribution won't have a large company trying to get them to buy more stuff. And most of the programs you need to accomplish your goals are available for free. So those are our top 5, but we know there are plenty of Linux fans jumping in to tell us more, so let us know down in the comments where you think Linux has an edge over Windows. And if you might want to see a follow-up video about why switching to Linux might not be such a good idea, let us know that too. Anyways, thanks for watching, like and subscribe the video. Bye.